What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. If you're new here, I appreciate you stopping by. I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more. My name's Joe. You're watching Living on Wheels. For those of you that are new here and don't exactly know what this channel is about, this is my truck, a 2000 7.3 Powerstroke. Awesome truck. I love it. This is kind of what the majority of the videos are on. Not all of them, but the majority. That right there is actually a wheelchair lift because I am in a wheelchair. So for today's video, we're going to be continuing on in the series of common issues with the 7.3 Powerstroke. I know I've said this before, but the series is kind of geared towards the newer Powerstroke owners or people looking to buy a Powerstroke, specifically the 7.3 Powerstroke, just to give them a little bit more knowledge about these engines. If you already own one, then this could help you figure out some problems, diagnose some problems. If you're looking at buying one, this can help you to know what you're looking at, give you a better idea of what you're looking at. So the video of today will be on the turbo pedestal, more specifically the problems that they have starting to leak over time. So I'm going to be, I actually have a turbo pedestal out of my truck so I can show you guys, give you guys a real good view of what it actually looks like instead of trying to actually look under the hood and down into the valley of the engine, which it's a little hard to do. So we're going to be going over that. Stick around and maybe you'll learn something. Here you go. This is what the turbo pedestal looks like. For those of you that don't know, the turbo pedestal is kind of what it sounds like. It's what the turbo in your truck actually sits on. It's the pedestal for your turbo, and there's a few things that I'll go over on it just to kind of give you guys a look of what it actually looks like. If you were to look at it in the truck, it would be sitting in just like this side towards the front of your truck, this side towards the firewall. The turbo sits right on top of it with the exhaust side of the housing here and the compressor side of the housing there. So I think this will be helpful for a lot of people to actually get a good visual of what it actually looks like, because it's not easy to see when it's inside the truck if you don't already have things taken out of the way. So to get started, this right here is the plug for your exhaust back pressure valve solenoid. You'll notice if you look at yours inside your truck, you'll have some wiring going back to the pedestal, and it will plug into this. It usually has a little metal clip on top of here, and this is something that people usually unplug, which I will cover why in a minute. Up here you have your turbo oil feed and oil return ports. They're not really lines. And if you were to look underneath the turbo, where it actually connects to the engine, or the top of the engine, that is your oil feed and oil return line there. The two inner holes, the outer holes, are bolt mounting holes. I guess I should preface this that this is for a Superduty turbo pedestal. I believe the early 99s and OBS pedestals are different, but I can't tell you how much different they are. So then here on the side, you've probably noticed this actuating arm, or I guess you've noticed this arm. It is an actuator for the exhaust back pressure valve. On these trucks from the factory, they come with a valve that goes on the right in front of the downpipe of the exhaust, that can open and close depending on weather conditions and oil temperature conditions. The idea behind it was that during colder conditions it would close the turbo valve, or close the exhaust valve, to help the engine warm up faster. There's some people that turn that valve into somewhat of an exhaust brake and wire in their own controllers. That right there is one of the biggest problems with the turbo pedestal itself on these factory trucks. So like I said, this is the electrical connection for the solenoid for the turbo pedestal. That is the actual actuator arm. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see it on mine there. So you can see that it's just super grimy and dirty around here, and that is because right here where it actually goes into the turbo pedestal, it ends up leaking. On just about every factory truck, at some point that'll end up leaking, and you'll start to see oil in the valley of your engine, as well as possibly dripping down below your engine. So as far as problems with the 7.3 Powerstroke turbo pedestal, this is probably the biggest one. If you live in a super cold climate, it can help to have the back pressure valve working. But in general, it just wasn't that good of a design. It didn't work as well as I think Ford or International had hoped it would. A lot of other people and myself, they end up getting rid of it. When I went in there, at one point I had my turbo out, and so at the same time I just decided to get a replacement turbo pedestal. There's a number of companies that make them, and it basically is the normal pedestal without the plug and without the actuator for the valve. Honestly, you won't really see any performance difference unless you get rid of the valve entirely, which then, of course, you're freeing up the exhaust a little bit. Like many others, I decided to just get rid of it entirely and put in a delete pedestal. That's probably what you'll hear called most, is a back pressure valve delete pedestal for the turbo. Basically, same pedestal, but it gets rid of this and it gets rid of this. If you're doing that and you're keeping the actual valve inside the exhaust or on the back side of the turbo, you're going to have to find some way to hold the valve open, because normally this would hold it open. It's spring loaded and it'll reset to the open position. I ended up welding on a little tab and just keeping it open. You're not going to see any crazy performance improvements by doing this, but it does help eliminate one more spot that these trucks can leak from. Another piece of useful information would be, if you don't want to deal with removing this, or maybe your back pressure valve is malfunctioning like mine was. Mine actually ended up starting to open close when I was going like 70 miles an hour on the highway, and as you could imagine, it's basically like closing the exhaust brake while you're trying to drive at highway speeds, which doesn't work very well. So if you're having issues with it, yes, it can be fixed, but the cheapest and easiest solution that doesn't really have any negative side effects is to just unplug this sensor. If you unplug this, the valve will default to the open position and stay open unless there's something actually wrong with it and it's stuck closed. That's not super common though. So you can, like I did, I was on a road trip driving. It was about a 1,000-mile road trip, and I was having problems with it, so I just went in and unplugged this and just dealt with it. It will throw a soft code, I think it's P0475, throw a soft code saying there's a back pressure valve malfunction, and that's just because it's not picking up the signal here that it's plugged in. This does connect to your exhaust back pressure tube sensor that's on the front of the engine that I actually did a video on a few weeks ago. Don't unplug it at that sensor, because it'll actually throw off the fueling of your truck. If you want to get rid of or stop the back pressure valve from functioning, unplug it here, not at the front of the engine. As far as other problems go, over time there is an O-ring here, an O-ring there, and the same thing on the bottom. Over time those O-rings start to wear out and crack and split, and so eventually they'll start to leak oil around the pedestal or around the turbo. As you can see with mine, I don't think any of mine were leaking. I don't see any there, and on the underside it didn't look like they were leaking either. But if you have oil in the valley of your engine, especially back by the turbo, there's a pretty good chance that it's coming from either those O-rings up there, or underneath, or they're actually coming from this. As you can see with mine, it does look like mine was starting to leak. I'm glad I got it out. I don't have any reason to keep it in there. I don't live in a super cold climate. So yeah. So I know this is kind of a short video, but I think it is a helpful video for people to be able to actually visualize and actually see what this thing looks like in the truck, because it is kind of hard to see when it's back underneath the turbo and back behind the intake going into the heads. So like I said, quick overview. You got your exhaust back pressure solenoid plug there. You actually got your actuating arm there. You have your oil feed and return on top, as well as in the very back of the turbo back there. As far as disconnecting this arm goes, it's super easy. You have a little sliding arm right there, and basically that tab just slides over like that. And so if you're disconnecting it, obviously it gets a little more stuck when it's in the truck and it has been used, but it just slides back to the side, and you can pop this arm down off the actuating arm or off the valve arm, and that'll help you get the turbo out. If it's still connected, you won't be able to get the turbo out if you don't disconnect that. So, like I said, this is a quick video. A lot of it's kind of common sense, but if you're new to these engines, or you just haven't been around them that long, you don't know this. I didn't know this until I really started digging into it and doing my research, so hopefully this can help some of you guys out. It really helps to be able to actually see it, I think, in my opinion, to actually be able to visualize what these things look like. This is how it's going to be sitting inside the truck. It's not too complicated. This piece is removable. Basically pull out that bolt there and you can replace this whole solenoid. The actual turbo pedestal is actually rebuildable if you want to keep it factory. All the components in there that do end up leaking you can pull out, replace them, and basically make this thing brand new again. But in my opinion, if you're going to be doing any work on this and you don't live in a super cold environment, you might as well just get rid of it. It's just another point of issues, another point of leaking that you have to deal with along the way. Alright, well I think that'll be a wrap for this video. Just another one of those videos. Like I said, I'm doing a series of common issues with the 7.3 Powerstroke platform, specifically on the Superduty, but some of them will overlap onto the OBS trucks. The series is just for kind of those people that are looking to learn a little more about these engines, whether they're looking to buy one or whether they own one and just want to learn a little more. I know for me, I've only owned these trucks for a few years now, and I've learned a whole lot over the last few years. By no means am I an expert, but there's a lot to learn. I've done more research and reading than I care to admit, so hopefully my learning and my experiences can help some of you guys out, whether you're looking for one or you own one. If this is new to you, I hope you learned something. Hopefully it was useful. If you have any questions, be sure to leave me a comment. And I'll get back to you. I try to get back to just about everybody that leaves a comment. Right now, at the size the channel is at right now, I'm still pretty capable of being able to do that and staying interactive with you guys. I'm sorry the video was a little late this week. Life's been keeping me pretty busy, but things are going well. I'm excited about what's coming for this channel. This should be a really exciting year. If you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. Stick around. Don't miss out on anything fun. Hope you had a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week.